The slap heard from Las Vegas to South Korea. It's actually the biggest MMA news story out right now, and it just won't seem to go away. Okay, here's what happened. Brian Ortega slaps Korean Zombie. Fast forward 24 hours, get a couple of facts better. Brian Ortega was near Korean Zombie, but slapped his translator. Fast forward yet another couple of days. Brian Ortega was near Korean Zombie and the translator, but slapped the CEO of the management company that represents Korean Zombie, and Ortega was upset because that gentleman had told somebody somewhere that Brian Ortega was scared to fight the Korean Zombie. Okay, that's the story. Ortega backs the story, said, yep, that's exactly what happened. Told that guy, if I ever see him, I'm going to slap him. I saw him. I'm a man of my word, and I slapped him. Okay, okay. I don't personally get the slap myself. I've never really understood the slap. And I realize the Diaz boys made it cool to slap somebody in the middle of a fight. But I don't know that I've ever really understood the slap. And Brian Ortega is such a nice guy, by the way. I mean, you have to include that in there. If you ever meet Brian Ortega, he's borderline shy. He very much keeps to himself. If you ever pay him a compliment, I mean, you can see his face light up. It means something to him. He's just a regular guy who works really hard, who found himself in a sport that's got some attention. So him to go and slap somebody, I got to tell you, is a little bit surprising. And by the way, Ortega does understand the game, at least to some extent. Not where he will in 5 or 6 years from now, but he understands it to a good, solid extent right now. If you got a guy that you want to fight and he's got a management team trying to pick a fight, going to the public, it got so loud and so effective that it got all the way back to you. Imagine all the other ears that it crossed before it got to your ears. You kind of owe that guy a bit of a thank you. Not to mention, it's kind of low fodder in the cannonball of insults, right? I mean, you're afraid to fight Korean Zombie. Do you have to fight over that? It seems as though that's kind of G-rated. I'm not totally sure where the insult came from. Not to mention they were our guests and it was just 2 of them. They were a little bit outnumbered and they got put in a section and they're right by each other. I mean, there was just a lot of things on it that were more confusing as to why this ever happened. I would call it unnecessary. Now, the good news is, as much as saying a guy is afraid of another guy isn't all that big of a deal, I imagine the slap wasn't all that big of a deal. I didn't see it, I suppose, but I would just imagine that a slap is a 1 step up or 1 step down from a push, from a shove, right? I mean, it kind of sits on the same shelf next to that. No harm, no foul would be largely the way I will look at this. Possibly because I choose to look at it like that. Possibly because I like Brian Ortega a lot and I don't want anybody to have to be mad at him. It just will always never cease to puzzle me how you're in the one sport where if you have somebody you want to fight, you can fight them. You just have to make sure that it's another guy that has a privileged license, and you wait until the appropriate time when the unified rules will be applied. I don't think that's too much to ask of anybody.